Hi, I am in the car now heading to Southwest Ranches Farmers Market. That is where I buy always raw milk, eggs, red meat, or I go to Smitty's, which is also a local place, and raw honey and butter. There's quite a few staple items in the kitchen that I get from Southwest Ranches, and that is because I trust them to have good, high quality ingredients. It's one of the only places I know where you can get raw ingredients like raw butter, kefir, milk. They have so many things there. And also, given the state of our agricultural system, and all of the things that Bill Gates is up to, I like to support local always when and where I can. So I will show you guys what it looks like when we get there. It's not a pop-up farmers market. It's there all week long. They have fridges and everything, and it's a really great setup. But on Thursdays, they get raw milk delivery and it goes really fast. So if it doesn't sell out today, tomorrow morning it will be sold out, and then you can't get your hands on it until next week again. And I normally call before I go to make sure that they've had their delivery, because sometimes in the past, like I've gone at like noon on Thursday and their delivery doesn't come in until 2, and then give them a little bit time to unload and get organized and show up at like 3. So I'm on my way there now, and I'll show you where else I end up going for other ingredients, because I think I'm going to take you guys along for a cooking situation at home. Some of my staple meals, I'm due for some canning. I can a couple of my own things at home, and I really want to get way more into canning, but to safely can, I'm a little bit sketched out to do like soups, or like I would love to can my um red sauce, but it has pancetta ground up in it. And yeah, anyway, I think that I'm going to end up buying a canning machine. I'll talk a little bit about that later when I'm actually canning, but I thought it was worth mentioning now. So I'll see you guys at Southwest Ranches Farmers Market. It is the best. If you live in the area, highly recommend.
Hi guys, I normally don't film at night, but I'm going to right now. I'm going to open up this chicken and cover it with salt and put it in the fridge overnight so that the salt can dehydrate the skin, and then tomorrow night I'll make it for dinner.
Okay, guys, it's the next day. It's the next evening, actually. It's 6:27, and I'm about to start cooking dinner, but I'm going to make steak, smashed potatoes, cream of spinach. I'm really just heating that up. I got it from the butcher, and sauteed mushrooms for dinner. And then I'm also going to show you guys the spatchcock chicken with carrots and onions underneath so they caramelize, and that will be for the next couple days lunch or dinner. Today is Thursday, and so the weekend's coming up, so we don't need too much food to last us through the weekend. I'll continue showing you guys a couple things that I cook this weekend. I think that I'm going to can and do garlic confit and pickled red onions. And yeah, so let's get into it. Okay, these are ribeye from Smitty's, which is our local butcher shop. It's located right on the edge of Fort Lauderdale, like right before Pompano. That's who I think, in my opinion, has the best meat. So I either get it from there or from Southwest Ranches, which is more the Davie area. So I just salted both sides and then rolled the edges in the leftover salt on here. And the husband is outside heating up our eggs. So we're going to cook it on charcoal. And then over here, I have salty water heating up in a really wide but shallow bowl. Sorry, pot. And this I'm going to bring up to a boil and throw some of these potatoes in there. These yellow baby potatoes I buy from Earth Fresh at Whole Foods. These I think are the best. They have the smallest size, they're the most consistent, and they're organic. So I will throw these in the boiling water and show you when I know how I know when they're ready to come out. They'll usually start floating. And yeah, I just do a blanch in here and then transfer them to here to do crispy smashed potatoes in the oven. It is 6:31 and I am just waiting for the potato water to boil. So while I'm waiting on that, the oven is preheating and I am going to run through the house, not run, but I'm going to go around the house and light candles and turn only the lamps on so that as the sun goes down while I'm cooking, the ambiance is already set. All right, so all of my little vintage candle holders like this and like the fairy light one that opens, the top comes off. I use the same candles, which are these. And I feel like it's worth mentioning the wax when it's down like this can be hard to get out. And so sometimes I will take a butter knife and sort of pop one edge up. And then let me do that really quick and then I'll show you. So these, if you can see the hole at the very bottom where the wax is, that goes down about an inch or a half of an inch. And when you set a small candle like this in here, a lot of the times as this wick heats up, it will loosen this up and this will pop down like this, which will make that wick come down. This will go into the hole at the bottom of the candle holder and your flame will always go out. So what I do on these vintage candle holders is I take a little piece of tape and I put it at the bottom. And normally it will stay in there for a while, but every now and then, like today, the candle popped out and the tape went with it. So I'm just going to put a little piece of tape down here, put the candle in there, and then light it. And I'll be good to go for a little bit. But the candle was always going out in these. I didn't know that trick. And it was extremely frustrating until I realized that the wick was falling out the bottom. I use these candles. They're rechargeable. I will link them below, but they're electric. So that's nice. And now I'm just going to go around the house, light all the candles, turn on all the lamps, and I will meet you back in the kitchen. Okay, we're throwing the potatoes in the boiling water, about 10. So just for the two of us. And normally we have a little bit left over. And I'm just going to parboil these until they are fork tender, almost like al dente, how pasta is. And a lot of the little ones, when they're ready, they will float on the top of the water. So that's a sign to take them out. So I take them out, transfer them to the towel, and then I will smash them with a heavy cup. You could use anything. I just prefer this. And I will coat the pan with beef tallow. Tallow is the best thing that I have found that will make the potatoes crispy. It can handle high heat and it won't get smoky in the oven. So once we get there, I will show you how to do it. While I am waiting on the potatoes to parboil, I am taking a little bit of raw butter in the pan, which is already on, heating up. And I'm going to throw some baby Bellas pre-sliced in here. And before salting those, because it pulls water out of the mushrooms, I'm just gonna let them saute until most of the moisture evaporates. And then I will come back in with salt and other seasonings. Okay, so for the chicken, I use one of these all-top pans that have this in there. I'm going to hit this with some olive oil. I'm going to use olive oil because I will only have the oven on around 375 for this. So olive oil is fine for that heat temperature. And I am going to peel some whole carrots with one of these and then chop these into about 1-inch segments and toss them at the bottom of here. As I'm chopping up these carrots, I just wanted to give you guys an update because I don't really follow recipes. I just know I have a couple simple recipes and those are the ones that I've come up with that I follow on a regular basis, but I'm explaining them to you guys is different than doing it. So just for the sake of showing you, some of these are in inch pieces and some are much less than inch pieces. So there's really not much consistency when I chop these up, but at 375, it's enough to make these pieces really nice and caramelized without shriveling up or burning, while still getting the bigger pieces like this, the thicker ones, fork tender. And so this is what I do, and 375 is the correct temperature, in my opinion, to do this. These little ends, I throw away. That is about 6 carrots. I'm gonna do 2 more and then grab 1 onion. And these little pieces like this, I throw in my stock bag. So I'm gonna set these aside to do that. I keep it in the freezer. This is getting really full. So tomorrow I will show you guys how to make a homemade stock. I like a yellow onion for this. Now I like to cut the onion in half this way and then just chop it up into small segments like this. So you get a nice caramelized chunk. And then I just sort of finger through them to separate them, really allowing them to caramelize, because otherwise in these bigger chunks, sometimes the outside will caramelize and it'll caramelize in here, but these layers in here end up getting protected. And then again, with the sorry salt, simple. Now let's get the chicken. Okay, here's our spatchcock chicken from last night, which we salted. We are just going to take it and lay it on here. Now, the salt is no longer visible on the top of the chicken, but I know that it has penetrated through the skin down into the meat, which has dehydrated the meat slightly to allow it to crisp up. And it's also flavored the actual meat. So just for color and a little bit extra flavor, I like to hit it with a little bit of cayenne pepper, just a dust of it. That's not enough to make it spicy in my opinion, but I do like spicy food. So if you're a little more sensitive, then be careful to spice. And then I hit it with fancy paprika. And I do this with a slightly heavier dusting than I did the cayenne pepper, again, for color and flavor. And that's it. In the oven, this is going to go at 375 for about an hour. But I always probe the meat in here with a thermometer just to check before pulling it out. And if you need to let it go a little bit longer than that, it's okay. These veggies on the bottom of the tray will be at that point in chicken juice. And so they'll be protected if you need to crank the heat up or leave it in for a little bit longer. Some of these potatoes are floating. So I'm going to take these out and put them aside. And since these potatoes are slightly different sizes, they are going to be ready at slightly different times. So I just keep a close eye on them in this stage. And I'm going to give the bigger ones a couple more minutes. Okay, so these are getting some color and the moisture has come out. They're a little bit dry. I am going to take a little bit of olive oil and some champagne vinegar to deglaze the pan. This basically does the same thing as if you were to use white wine or red wine, as I know most people do with their mushrooms. And then I love to use the savory balsari salt. This is what I always use on my mushroom. I have for like 10 years. I keep it on the counter in this pot since we use it all the time. And this probably seems like a random combo because it is, but I've been doing this forever. I normally add a little hit of hot sauce. It doesn't really matter, any hot sauce. And if I don't have hot sauce, I just use red pepper flakes. The potatoes are done. And instead of using beef tallow to line the pan, the baking tray today, I'm going to use leftover bacon fat because we made breakfast for dinner the other day and I forgot we had that left over. Normally I wouldn't use that much. Okay, so the tray is well lined. And now I'm just going to take each potato one by one, set it on the tray and smush it like this. Once they're all smushed, I will hit them with some salt and then put them in the oven, which is already preheated, ready to go at 500 for about 10 minutes on each side. So 10 minutes on this side, and then I will take them out, flip them all over, and hit the next side for another 10. These potatoes, I prefer with just some fine grained sea salt. So that's what I will use. But I'm going to wait until I flip them over and we get that nice golden oily side because the oil will help the salt stick. At this stage, it will just all come off and I don't want to add more fat to the top of these. Okay, potatoes. Normally I use a really sharp stainless steel spatula to flip these, but it's in the dishwasher. So instead, I'm flipping them with tongs. See, I like a spatula because sometimes those crispy bits get stuck. Okay, I really hate the spatula for that. So instead, I'm using a, what is this, cake server? Flipping them over. Okay. Now hit it with a dust of salt. And back in the oven for 10 minutes. Okay, so I just probed the chicken and the breast right here and the inner breast. Here. Yeah, I got 166, but it looks like it's still going up a little bit. It should come down in a second. Everything's nice and caramelized down there, and the skin is crispy. I'm going to put this in containers, stick it in the fridge, and head to bed. See you tomorrow.
Hello, welcome back, guys. It is now Saturday, early afternoon. I woke up this morning, I hit a yoga class and then a fit weightlifting class and went for a walk around the neighborhood. That is always part of my Saturday and Sunday routine. I so look forward to that. And then I chilled out for a little bit and continued reading this book. It's a coffee table book by Gil Schafer, The Great American House. I probably have a fourth of it left. That has been such an enjoyable read. Gil Schafer is a architectural wizard. The way he places homes on properties, thinking about the way the sun rises and sets, and the views that you'll have from rooms, as well as the actual layout of the house itself, the floor plan. It's so much fun to go through his work. So I've really been enjoying that. It's taken me a couple of weeks to get as far as I am in there because I really do like to read the coffee table books. I don't just go through the imagery. And I haven't had that much downtime lately. So anyway, that's been really enjoyable. And now I am beginning the canning process. So I took you guys out and it's Saturday. So I think I'm going to tan and swim in between cooking. So yeah, let's get into it. Right now I have a pot filled up with water. I'm going to turn the stove on and put empty cans in here. I'm actually due probably for getting some new cans, but I like this smaller size can for garlic confit because usually when I use it, I'm not using much of it. And I don't want to open a nice sanitary and sealed jar just to have it sit in the fridge for a while. So I prefer the small ones for the garlic confit. And I prefer this larger size for pickled red onions because I love pickled red onions. So if I'm putting it on a dish, I normally do a giant chunk, like half of a handful on top. So I will go through this pretty quickly. And I prefer for both garlic confit and pickled red onions to have the wide mouth jar. In general, I guess I actually prefer this, but it's not a huge deal to can using one of these with the smaller mouth. If it's for bone broth, chicken stock, sauces, things like that, this is just a little easier to get bigger things out of. I also keep my lids just in a little basket like this because we use mason jars for tons of things. I use it to put water in and fill up the floral arrangements around the house, to fill up the dog's water bowl. We use sometimes the smaller ones to make our iced coffees in. I am going to first prep and cook in the oven the garlic confit but that's gonna sit in the oven for like 2 to 3 hours. The pickled red onions, I can make them in a pinch. It's gonna take me, let's say, 10 minutes to make them. So I'm actually going to sterilize the red onion jars first while the oven is preheating for the garlic confit. So that these will sit on the bottom, I like to fill them up with water. And then I'm probably gonna have to top this off, it looks like, with water. Unfortunately, the seal on our pot filler recently broke, and I need to reach out to the company to get a new rubber seal. I at least think that that's the problem. My husband took a look at it and said that that would fix it. So for now, I don't have easily accessible water like that, which comes in handy when you're doing something like this because this is a giant stock pot. Then you get glass jars in and water, and it's ends up being quite heavy. I'm just going to fill up a jar like this and keep pouring water on it until these are covered, because you want the whole jar to be sanitized before canning. Otherwise, once you get the lid sealed on, you'll see stuff starts growing inside. That totally defeats the purpose. So I will let these boil for, I don't know, like 20 minutes, and then I'll kill the heat and let them cool off a little bit before pulling them out. And then I let them totally dry off before I add anything inside. I will also drop these lids in the water only for a couple of minutes to sanitize them. So they don't need to sit in the water for long. Now I am showing you guys how I can these two real simple things. I feel like these are two easy and useful things to know how to can, especially if you like hosting like I do. But in general, I just want to preface with, I don't know that much about canning. I haven't been canning for that long. I've been canning a handful of things for a couple of years. And although I've done lots of research on canning through YouTube, I haven't gone on deep dives on specific things to can, which is what I hope to get into this fall and winter because I do want to learn more. But if this piques your interest, I highly recommend going and checking out other channels on YouTube and going on the mason jar website. I think it's ball.com or something. And that's where you can get a lot of the canning recipes. They also have the temperatures and times that you need to cook things to appropriately sterilize and make them shelf stable. So that's where I go for my information, and that's where I suggest you guys look to. So that's perfect. These are just barely covered at the top. We're going to let this come all the way up to a boil. And like I said, I'm going to leave this in here for about 20 minutes to make sure that anything that is on them is killed so that these can be shelf stable once we fill them with pickled red onions. Okay, guys, the canning process is done. These are cooling off. We ended up with 3 of the garlic and 2 of the pickled red onion. I have thrown my wooden utensils in the boiling water so it doesn't go to waste, and these can clean really quick. This just sanitizes them. This is how I clean my wooden utensils. And I will link the mason jar website below where you can see how to make things, but also how to can them. So, for example, like if you wanted to make relish, you can go on the mason jar website and find a relish recipe. And then below that recipe, there will also be the canning process. So, different things need to be canned at different temperatures. And so that is what that is for. And then I will mention too, so this one I just push back in, which means the seal is probably not good. But in the middle of these lids, there's like a little circle that will pop up. This one was popped up because when I took it out of the boiling water using this, I dropped it. And so I think that I might have messed up the seal on the lid. But yeah, this one's popped up too, which honestly for me it's not a huge deal, but you do want to pay attention to that. Okay, one quick thing that I did want to mention about the cans is these are still cooling off, so I'm not going to do it, but unscrew you can unscrew the band off of the jar and just leave this on. You can test to see if the seal is if the lid has sealed onto the jar by flipping the jar upside down. If this lid stays on it without the band, you're good to go. And if not, it didn't seal properly, which to me, it's not a huge deal. If it hasn't sealed properly, I would take a paper towel with white vinegar, a paper towel because it's sterile, and wipe the lip of the jar to make sure that there is no oils or even like finger oils, olive oil, anything on there that would prevent the lid from really sealing on there. And then I would put the cap back on and do the process over again, just in the hot water, let it boil to the correct temperature for the correct time, and then remove it. And then it should be good to go. That's just a quick thing to note. And then I forgot to show you guys what I got from Southwest Ranches. Like I said, I go there every week on Thursday. And so I go on Thursdays because of the raw milk delivery. So we have this, the raw milk. We really just use this for our coffee, but you could also use it for smoothies or even protein shakes, whatever you use milk for, you can also use raw milk for, but I am just not like a milk drinker. I just like it for my coffee. Then we have raw honey, which is, not pasteurized. I did not know this a couple years ago, but honey in the store can have up to like 10%. Don't quote me on this. Look it up, do your own research, but something like 10% corn syrup without them being required to put it on the label. Cornstarch is horrible for you. There's glyphosate in it. It eats up your stomach lining and causes leaky gut. And so you do not want that. If you're trying to be healthier, you're trying not to have refined sugar or processed food, you switch over to honey to add sweetness to certain things, to make homemade vinaigrettes and dressings, and to put in your coffee. It totally defeats the purpose if you're buying honey that has corn syrup in it. So I buy raw honey local always from whoever I can get it from. Normally I go to Southwest Ranches, and it also helps with allergies if you eat honey that's local to your area, because the bees and things are feeding on the pollen that's in your area, which is the same pollen that is giving you an allergic reaction or making you stuffy. This is sea moss gel. I basically do a spoonful of sea moss gel like 2 to 3 times a week. Sea moss gel has 92 essential minerals in it. It's very hard to get all your trace minerals. Everyone's drinking filtered water these days. And even without filtering your water, there's not good minerals in, for example, tap water. So you need to get your minerals from other sources. That is easy. It's sea moss from the ocean turned into gel form, and it's extremely bioavailable, and it has tons of trace minerals that you can't normally get, and it's imperative for your cell function. Again, do your own research with all of this stuff, but this is just what I have learned over the years. This I actually haven't tried before, but I decided to get raw cow strawberry yogurt. I don't like parfait bowls or anything like that, but I figured if I end up having a little bit of a sweet tooth, that I would instead just have a little scoop of that instead. Raw butter, this is something that we get every time. Again, raw just means it's not pasteurized. No heat has been added to this, so all of the good bacteria is still alive in here. It's great for your gut microbiome. And yeah, it's just unfortunately hard to find, at least in Florida. I know that places like California and I think Arizona, they can sell things like raw milk in the grocery stores, or at least select grocery stores do sell it. But down here, it's illegal. So you'll notice that when you go into stores like the farmer's market, it says clearly displayed, not for human consumption. I also have this raw cottage cheese. It has a little bit more of a funk flavor wise than your normal cottage cheese, like a little bit of sort of a sour fermented flavor, subtle. But I eat cottage cheese as a small side with my meals, drizzled with a habanero hot sauce, and I put microgreens on top to give it some texture and add some fiber. And I don't mind the taste of this. And then also grass-fed colostrum. I put 3 scoops of this in my coffee every morning with raw milk and raw honey. And yeah, I was using Armora colostrum for a while, but I figured why not support local? Why not get something that's grass fed? Really, just supporting local is what made me do it. And it's easy to get my hands on. I don't have to order anything. If I need it, I run to the store and that's it. Okay, guys, hopefully this video was not all over the place. It's my first time sort of filming a what I eat and showing you guys how to cook a couple things in the kitchen. The next one will always be better. And if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe, and I will catch you next week for another one. Bye.